camping alone was a mistake. I knew that from the start, but I convinced myself it would be a peaceful escape. No distractions, no stress, just me, the trees, and the open night sky. I reached the campsite just before dusk, the crisp air carrying the rich scent of pine. Nestled in a small clearing between towering trees, I pitched my tent and started a small fire. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows, the distant hoots of owls the only sounds breaking the stillness. As night deepened, an uneasy feeling crept in. I tried to ignore it, blaming nerves and the unfamiliar solitude. Despite my exhaustion, sleep refused to come. Every rustle outside made my pulse quicken, twigs snapping, leaves crunching. I told myself it was just the wind or maybe a passing animal. But then, just after midnight, I heard something else. Breathing. Not the wind, not an animal. It was slow, measured just outside my tent. My body went rigid, my breath caught in my throat. I listened, heart hammering against my ribs. Then, a whisper. Not words, just a soft, breathy sound, like someone trying to speak but failing. My blood ran cold. I reached for my flashlight with shaking hands. I had to look. If I didn't, my mind would only conjure up worse horrors. Slowly, I unzipped the tent and shined the light outside. Nothing, just trees, shadows dancing in the flickering firelight. The breathing had stopped. I swallowed hard and scanned the area, but I was alone. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The fire had burned down to embers, casting eerie red light against the trunks. Every branch looked like fingers reaching toward me. I zipped up my tent, gripping my knife close. I wouldn't sleep, but at least I'd be ready. Hours passed. The forest was silent, too silent. No owls, no insects, nothing. Just an unnatural stillness that made my skin crawl. Then, the whispering started again. This time, inside the tent. I froze, cold terror paralyzing me. The sound was right next to my ear, barely audible but unmistakable. A rasping breath, a voice murmuring just beneath the threshold of understanding. I bolted upright, scrambling for my flashlight. My fingers fumbled, knocking over my water bottle. I shined the light inside the tent. Nothing, but the whispering didn't stop. It was inside my head now, a steady, shivering noise burrowing into my skull. My pulse raced. My skin was slick with sweat. I had to get out. I threw open the tent and stumbled into the night, gulping down the cold air. The fire was nothing but dying embers now, offering little comfort. And then I saw them, figures standing just beyond the tree line. Dozens of them, tall, motionless shapes barely visible in the darkness. Their outlines wavered like mist, their features hidden in shadow. They didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. I backed away, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. My head pounded with the whispers, growing louder, overlapping, fill my skull with indecipherable words. Then, all at once, they stepped forward, not walking, gliding, closing the distance between us without a sound. Their forms flickered, like candle flames in the wind. My stomach twisted. I turned and ran. Branches whipped at my face as I tore through the woods. I didn't care where I was going, only that I had to get away. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't stop. The whispering was all around me now, the voices growing frantic, desperate. I hit the ground hard, pain jolting through me. Gasping, I twisted onto my back, expecting figures looming over me. Nothing. The forest was silent. Only my ragged breaths remained. Shaking, I bolted. Screw my tent, screw my gear. I ran until I collapsed by my car, dawn creeping in. With trembling hands, I started the engine and sped off. I don't know what I saw. I don't want to, but I'll never camp alone again. The four of us needed a break, a chance to escape the chaos of everyday life. The wilderness felt like the perfect retreat. We set off early, excitement buzzing as we drove to a secluded camping spot deep in the woods. It was far from any trails, a place few ever ventured. By nightfall, we sat around the fire, its flickering glow casting shadows on the trees. The cool air carried the sounds of nature, chirping insects, rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl. Under the vast, starlit sky, we laughed, shared stories, and let the world beyond the woods fade away. The stories we told were eerie, ones that made our hearts race, but the atmosphere felt safe. The firelight provided a comforting glow, and the thought of the night felt cozy. As we sat back, feeling our eyelids heavy, we realized it was time to sleep. We climbed into our tents, the soft rustling of the fabric as we settled in. The silence of the forest soon surrounded us, and we drifted into a peaceful sleep. But something woke me. At first, I wasn't sure what it was, a soft sound, a rustling maybe, like the wind stirring the leaves. It wasn't the usual night sounds of the forest. This felt different. Something wasn't right. I lay still, straining to listen. A distant voice. No, not a voice. More like a low hum, a murmur that seemed to float on the air. My heart started to race as the hairs on my neck stood up. I slowly sat up in my sleeping bag, my breath shallow. The night seemed too still now, unnervingly quiet. I carefully unzipped the tent, the cool night air hitting me as I stepped outside, trying to locate the source of the sound. The fire had long died down, leaving only faint embers that barely illuminated the dark woods around us. I squinted, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. The trees were unnervingly still, and the wind had stopped. Everything was silent, too silent. I could feel the unsettling weight of the silence pressing in on me. That's when I saw it. A figurino, a man darting between the trees at the edge of the clearing. His movements were fast, almost inhuman, his silhouette faint in the shadows, but I could see his tall, gaunt frame as he darted from one tree to the next, his body jerking unnaturally. He moved like an animal, too quick and erratic. Panic seized me, and I froze, not sure what to do. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. For a split second, our eyes met, and in that moment I saw the twisted, hollow emptiness in his gazia look that sent an icy chill down my spine. But then, just as quickly as he had appeared, the figure vanished into the woods, gone, like he was never there. I couldn't breathe. My legs were frozen in place, my entire body tense with terror. What the hell was that? I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. All I could do was stand there in the cold night, my body rigid with fear. My mind raced, trying to process the absurdity of what I had just witnessed. But then I heard it, a rustling from behind me. I whipped around, and there they were, my friends, stepping out of the tents, looking just as confused as I was. "What's going on?" Greg asked, his voice groggy with sleep. Before I could answer, the tension in the air was palpable, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. My voice barely came out, a whisper of panic. "Did you see that?" There was a man, in the woods. The others stared at me, half awake and confused, but when they turned to look around, I could see the unease in their eyes. There was nothing, no man, just the dark, empty forest. "I don't see anything," Sarah said, her voice shaky. She looked over at Mike, who gave her a worried glance. "Maybe it's just the dark playing tricks on us." I shook my head. No, this wasn't just the dark. He was real. I saw him. But the more I tried to explain, the more uncertain I became. Had I imagined it? It didn't make sense. But I knew what I had seen. The others didn't seem convinced, but none of us wanted to sleep after that. We gathered around the remnants of the fire, each of us sitting in tense silence, too scared to speak. The night stretched on, and the feeling of being watched never left. Eventually, the first light of dawn broke through the trees. The sky lightened, casting a pale blue glow over everything, and the oppressive weight of the night seemed to lift, if only slightly. But the unease lingered, an uncomfortable knot in my stomach. As the sun rose higher, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone, that something was still out there, watching us. We packed up our things in a hurried silence. No one spoke about what had happened the night before, but I could see it in their eyes. They felt it too, that sense of something wrong. We left without a second glance, none of us willing to stay a moment longer. In the daylight, the once peaceful forest felt eerily empty, as if we had barely escaped something unseen. What was once a place of beauty now lingers in my mind like a nightmare. The memory of that figure in the darkness haunts me. I don't know who or Waith was, but I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, waiting. Hiking alone had always been my escape, just me, the trail, and the steady crunch of leaves beneath my boots. The crisp fall air, golden sunlight filtering through the trees. It was supposed to be another peaceful morning, but it wasn't. I took a familiar trail on the outskirts of town. The woods weren't dense enough to be disorienting, but thick enough to keep me alert. Lost in the rhythm of my steps, I almost missed Ida's shoe, half buried beneath fallen leaves. At first, I thought it was just trash, something left behind. But as I looked closer, unease crept in. The leather was cracked, stained, the laces frayed beyond recognition. It hadn't been lost recently. I crouched down to inspect it, running my fingers over the worn surface. Something felt off. It was too out of place, too forgotten. No one had passed through here in a while, at least not anyone who had been paying attention. The shoe was old, far older than anything a modern hiker would wear. I shrugged it off, standing up and brushing the dirt from my hands, but my mind kept drifting back to that shoe. It didn't sit right with me, like a question that had no easy answer. What was it doing here, so far from the main trail? As if drawn by some invisible force, my feet carried me forward, off the beaten path, into the denser part of the woods. It wasn't the smartest idea, I knew, but curiosity had me in its grip. I kept walking, scanning the ground for any other signs, another shoe, a footprint, anything. And sure enough, I found it. A faint trail of broken branches, trampled leaves, and uneven footprints in the soft earth. They were fresh, unmistakable. Whoever had been here recently hadn't walked in the same direction as me. I followed the trail, my heart rate picking up. The deeper I went into the woods, the quieter it became, until it felt like I was the only one left in the world. Even the birds seemed to have fallen silent. My legs were starting to ache from the extra distance, but I couldn't stop now. I had to know where this trail led. Eventually, after what felt like hours of wandering, I came across a narrow gap in the trees. Through the break, I could see a strange, jagged opening in the hillside, a cave. I felt a chill run through me at the sight of it, like something primal, deep inside, was warning me to turn back. But I couldn't. I had come this far. I stepped forward, barely able to make out the shapes inside the cave from where I stood. It was too dark, but there was something about the entrance, like it was pulling me in. As I got closer, I froze. In the dim light, I saw him, a gaunt man with tangled hair and tattered clothes. His wide, unblinking eyes locked onto mine, and my blood ran cold. He didn't speak or move, just stared, as if he had been waiting for me. My shaking fingers fumbled for my phone, but instinct warned me. Calling for help would only make things worse. A twig snapped behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but saw nothing. The air felt thick with unseen eyes watching me. Panic surge, I turned and ran, crashing through the underbrush, my breath ragged. I didn't stop until I reached a clearing, pressing my back against a rock, my pulse racing. But when I looked down, dread pooled in my stomach. My shoes weren't covered in fresh dirt, they were caked in something older, untouched. A chilling thought crept in. Had I really been alone? Or had I been following someone all along?